That's enough of that. I am the Expert Layman, and this is Grinding Meeting 21, North Korea and Apolitical Regime Change, which sounds kind of oxymoronic, but that's also the point. Coming from the Expert Layman. This really started the stream started as a thought experiment, and that thought experiment came from a couple different books I've gotten through recently. Oh, and in-game, I am not going to do anything too mentally taxing. I'm just going to go around and pick up Outland Flight Paths. The two books are The Gulag Archipelago and In Order to Live by, I think her name is Yanemi Park. Funny thing is, I'd gotten most of the way through the Gulag Archipelago and like the long 4-hour version or whatever it is. And I only had like maybe 15 hours to go, and then I lost the one context in which I could listen to the book, because if I listen to that book at home, I'm just surrounded by opulence and luxury and ease and comfort. I just feel like so unbelievable. I don't like myself a whole lot. You know, it's like, it just reminds you of how good you've got it. So the only context that I found that I could listen to the book was when it's 80 plus degrees, doing heavy manual labor, working on a line, which is what I do. But man, when you've been working like 11-hour days and your mask is freaking soaked and I'm not actually sure which way I'm going through. And it's just hot and miserable, and you're sore, and you end up getting like really hungry at times too. And it's like, okay, here's the context where I can listen to the Gulag Archipelago and not feel like a piece of crap. This this seems to be it. So while we were, I was like, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through, and then got laid off, and we build cars, so this is not new territory. This happens, a few times a year, even on normal years, but it's been more frequent and lasting longer, but this isn't new territory. So I couldn't finish the book. I had, while we were on layoff, I'm like, I got to go back to work so I can finish this goddamn book. Because even I don't know, I don't seem to be able to put myself through anything as miserable as what I do at work to create the context outside of work where I can appreciate the book. But it really helps you not be a bitch about your own miserable working conditions. It's like I can try to go bitch about I don't know, I'm getting off topic here, but really enjoyed the book, and Gulag Archipelago, Solzhenitsyn is surprisingly funny, and just he has this wit about him, and there's things you can communicate but only tangentially, or it can only be inferred. But when, you spend 70 plus hours listening to what a guy had to say, you learn things that, kind of hard to put into words, or maybe can't even. One thing is, I was going through the book, imagine a fan fiction where okay, what could you do if you had the resources then, and you knew what was happening in, the Soviet Union at the time, and then it's there's nothing. You'd have to have a superhero with incredible powers, and that might not even do it. It's there's just no scenario where you could turn that around before it was ready to end. Of course there's possibilities, but that was, I don't know, part of a coping mechanism for dealing with how freaking dark can get, is to just try to imagine a scenario where it wasn't quite as dark, but didn't really get anywhere with that on the Gulag. But during the time when I came back to work, I hit the Yanemi Park book. Hope I'm getting her name right. And sorry, just checking something. Yes, I am talking. With I don't know, 10, 15 hours left to go on the Gulag Archipelago, I did and it's about her story, her escape from North Korea, and there are so many parallels, and one thing that, I don't know, it's kind of been a hobby horse for me lately is people look, when things start going bad, people want answers, and typically whatever bad thing moved into the place of a good thing, you know, you typically say, well, that bad thing displaced the good thing. But a lot of times, just the environment changes, and that good thing becomes corrupted, and then it can't really defend itself from, like, a bad thing. And it was either going to be that bad thing or it was going to be a different bad thing, but something was going to move into that space, and it wasn't going to be good. But to say, hey, this happened because of this thing that moved into its place, it's like, well, it's kind of like blaming the surfer for the wave. So the reason there's so many, and I'm not going to go into the, try to avoid going into atrocity stuff, but I just, the similarity just comes that when things go bad and human beings basically go, you know, when society just goes to its darkest place, it looks very similar. And it's kind of what's waiting, you know, if the society thing breaks down, that's what's waiting for us. And you know, it's in all of us to, like, be in that environment. Like, we all think we're, like, above it, but, you know, you just get plucked into that. What do? You're just going to die to try to improve it? Not, at any rate, the North Korea situation is different because it's, well, obviously it's happening right now, and it's relatively self-contained, and it's not huge like the freaking Soviet Union, and it, you know, and I don't know, I suppose this might be a political take, but I think it's fairly obvious that if the international community wanted to do something about North Korea, something would be getting done about North Korea. Hey, there's the notification for my own stream. But, you know, the collective will of those that would have the ability to do something about it is not only not for it, but they're all quite happy with the arrangement. The power is kind of like having a buffer between capitalism and, you know, communism. In fact, one thing, okay, here's the thought experiment. And, if you're a person who likes thought experiments, you might want to, I don't know, stop the video once I get it out and just kind of play with it on your own. Because I was having a lot of fun with it, but then it actually kind of like coalesced into something kind of, I don't know, neat. At least I think it's neat. And then that's what I'll be presenting. But the thought experiment first is, let's say you are an independent billionaire. Doesn't matter if you're, you know, a Bill Gates, or whoever, you know, you've got billions, and you wanna do something to make the world better. You know, you might be like a CEO, you might be like, I don't know, like a Saudi prince or something, but you have billions and billions at your disposal, and oh yeah, I guess that's the way this works. And you've decided that you are gonna personally do something about the situation in North Korea. Now, tens of billions of dollars seems like an insane amount of money, but when you're talking geopolitics, it's really not. It's not that much. But let's say you're that person and you've decided, I am going to try to do something about this. Now, here's your restrictions. No bombs from the air, no boots on the ground, no interaction with the international community, and basically I think you'd need to, in order to be successful, you'd basically have to hide what you are doing from the international community, because I'm quite certain that if anybody, you know, started making moves towards improving the living situation of, you know, North Koreans, the great powers that seem to be, you know, enemies will lockstep and both decide, no, we like it the way it is. So you almost certainly would have to do this on the sly. Now, I know this, I took something impossible and let's just make it even more difficult, but I think in reality, that's just the inherent difficulty of the thing that you're trying to do. So, okay, no bombs from the air, no boots on the ground, hide your activities, at least for the most part, from the international community, and no interaction with the people you're helping. That is a thought experiment. I mean, yeah, obviously you can add or remove criteria. And, oh god, it's on the other side. What am I doing? I don't have to be anywhere anytime soon. Okay, so I came up with basically a 3-phase plan. Oh, on my tank. I'll just keep running. They'll give up before I'm dead. I love the miner's helmet. They're a little glowy right now. Okay, here's, I'm Bruce Wayne, without the fighting ability. And, okay, phase 1. Acquire a nuclear submarine, which isn't actually as hard as you might think. There's an interesting story about the Mexican or Colombian drug cartel. Tried to buy one from Russians to smuggle into the U.S. And I think about it, I think they may have actually done that at some point. At any rate. And I want to say it was only a few million. I'm certain it was under 10 million, but I was thinking it was like 4. So that's not crazy. What the expensive part is what you're going to have to do to that thing. And because you need to adjust, you need to modify the environment, the on-the-ground, real-world environment that the North Koreans are living in, basically to give them what they need to do whatever it is they want to do with it. Right now, they don't have a choice because they don't have the resources for any choice other than not die today. And that's how most of the people are living. Like, you spend your day trying to find enough food and trying not to draw the ire of the authorities so that you can just make it till tomorrow. That's a horrible way to be. So my thing is around delivering things that the people need in a very, very tactical way, and I think people who are more interested in moralizing than helping might take issue with the way this goes, but we will see. What you need to do, the reason for the nuclear sub is that you're going to be mounting a railgun on top of it, and oh my god, it's so cool that those exist. Now, railgun technology is situational. Oh wait, do you not go through here? I don't think. There's another one. I should know this. And they're kind of at the limit. I mean, for very specific operations, it could be, it could be really, really cost effective because there's no fuel cost. There's no explosive. The ammo is ridiculously cheap compared to like a missile. And you're just launching it with like, well, kind of like one of those monorails, except, a freaking cannon. And those things can shoot hundreds of miles and still be traveling at like Mach 3 when it hits, because that's where the energy is stored in the actual speed and mass of the object. So when it hits, it's hitting at such a speed and has so much mass that the energy released is equivalent to an explosion, or even better. So, but you don't need to be blowing stuff up. We just need to pepper the island with certain items. So, the great thing about the nuclear sub is if you're not using the power to move around, you can use it to charge the capacitors on the railgun. And I looked at the numbers, and power output of typical nuclear sub engine could actually power one of the railguns they're using up on like one of the destroyers, but there'd be, you know, it'd be really difficult with, like, you know, for many reasons, you know, weight, recoil, stuff like that. But you're not launching a super massive, like, it's like you're firing an arrow. It really is. It's like a giant, you know, electromagnetic crossbow. But we don't need this thing to be going Mach 3 when it gets where it's going. In fact, it would be, oh my god, I should be mining. It would be optimal to have the things in free fall when they hit the ground with no additional momentum. Because you're just trying to deliver things to the land. You're not trying to destroy anything. And in fact, you don't want to send anything that will get picked up by radar either. So it would definitely appear that, you know, a lower power railgun for basically delivering, you know, stuff to the mainland seems totally feasible, although how much you could do, how quickly, and your delivery device would be rather complicated, but that's more than I'll get into this video. I will get into the 3 phases. Phase 1 is the egg drop. Eggs have a kind of special cultural significance in North Korea. Just nourishment and status. You know, I'm not going to pretend to understand it, but what you do is you create a calorie, nutrient-dense food-like thing that will keep for a very long time and is completely durable. And in phase 1, you're basically just dropping these eggs full of the nutrient material, you know, wherever you can put them. You basically just want to pepper the land with them. In fact, you don't even want people to find these until you've hit a certain amount of saturation. This is the pragmatic, do you want it to succeed, or do you want to, I don't know, signal what a good person you are? Because these things are at odds. I'll explain. Also, the whatever the food, you know, whatever the material you're giving them to eat is, you have to be very careful because they have super delicate digestive systems. They have a real problem with fats and things like that. So that would have to be taken into account. The other thing is, it needs to be unpleasant. I mean, very unpleasant. In fact, this food thing needs to be so unpleasant that unless it's basically inedible unless you're starving. And that may sound kind of cruel, but it's absolutely critical to the process. Oh, shoot. I shouldn't have done that. Because you are modifying the environment in a way that only benefits the people that are starving. The people who aren't starving, these are useless. They have no value. But if you are starving and you find like a couple of these, yeah, they're really freaking unpleasant. That will also a big problem when you're trying to feed starving people is they will overeat and injure themselves or even die because they ate too much all at once. And the unpleasantness prevents that outcome. Like, when you're starving, I can eat one of them. Then you go look at that second one, it's like, you know, I don't think so. If I don't find any food tomorrow, then okay, I can probably do it. But like, and that's the idea. You create this base reserve for the most at-risk people there. And the government, you know, even if they like try to go gather these things up from, you know, out in the fields and the forests and whatever, they're no good to them. Nobody in any position of relative authority is going to be hungry enough to eat any of these, and you can't sell them to anybody. And like, and even if you did try to use them as a commodity, it's like, you know, people understand that, you know, this isn't from the government. Also, no markings on any of this, no words, just the things. Am I going the wrong way? I think I'm going the wrong way. I am definitely going the wrong way. Like I said, no communication with those you're helping. So phase 1 is basically give people their minds back, which is when all you can really think about is just trying to survive, to get the bare, just to try to meet the bare minimum of what you need to stay alive today so that you can do it again tomorrow. You're not thinking about anything else. When you are hungry, really hungry, you're just reduced to an animal. Other people, even people close to you, are just like, it just makes it impossible for people to group up or get behind anything, because when your basic needs are just nowhere near being met. And that's the horrible thing about it too. You make a rule. It's like the government provides all your needs, and only the bad people will go to the black markets so they can get these decadent items that they really don't need, because the government provides all. Also, the government is not going to be providing what you need, but you have to act like it is. So it's like you're put in the situation where, oh, if I follow the rules, I die, and they know that I die. So I have to I have to try to break the rules without running afoul of the law. But then if they catch you, like, oh, you're bad because you're breaking the law, but you're not allowed to say, I didn't want to die. You know, that's not a fair defense. Okay, I'm getting off topic here. So phase 1 is, get people thinking past today. Give them their minds back. And it's hard to say how long this phase would need to go on for, but I imagine quite a bit. I cannot remember where you go from here. Oh, I'll go over and get that. The other thing with the eggs, what I think would be really helpful is whatever material you make them out of. I mean, you probably don't want to. You want something durable, and you might need something ferrous, like, magnetic, so that it, fires better with the railgun. I don't know. But you don't want to leave any materials, any kind of metals that they can melt down and use. So, ceramics, carbon, stuff like that. But what I think would be really helpful is if the eggs, you put that material on them, so for a couple hours after sunset, they faintly glow. Is this not where I'm going? That is not where I'm going. The glow would be enough that, like, if you're just kind of like walking around in the fields, you could spot one. But if you're like in an aircraft or in a moving vehicle of any kind, it'd be impossible. You want people that are just walking around in the environment to discover them, but you don't want to be able to discover them in mass. And as people can build up a stock of these. Like, it just changes their mind. And you're not pushing them in any particular direction. It's just whichever way they're already inclined to go. Because that's the worst thing. So you start saying, I want to help these people, but they don't really understand what they need. I understand what they want better than what they want. I mean, look at them. They're not even educated. They're going to have to take my word for these things. It's like, you piece of crap. And this is... that's another topic. Phase 2 is the burner drop. Why is this unfamiliar? Oh, that would be why. Damn it. I figured it was neutral because there was like gears and stuff, and now I'm flagged. So yeah, it's the burner drop, where they're not really phones, although you could repurpose, a mass-produced phone to do this. What they really are is, at least to start, is just an encyclopedia, a history book, and, and geography. Just information about the world, Like, welcome to planet Earth, here's what's going on. Really important not to put bias in, but, obviously you're going to need to work with South Koreans to get the language, as best understood as it can be. I'm not minding that. Um, so they just, they understand what's going on. The history of, at least the history of their own country. They can look at maps and they even want to put some, like, South Korean, TV shows, movies, lots of movies. I think movies are probably the best. And the thing with the phones is, you make them a little bit oversized, and you basically make the back of the phone a solar panel. And and if you leave it in the sun all day, you'll have a couple hours at night where you can do stuff with it, which is, probably about all they can. Fair anyway. So it's just kind of because people aren't going to want to tell each other. They're going to find this and they're going to try to keep it like secret, like terrified, and I'm sure, that they get caught with it. It's rough, but no labeling, no branding, just there, just the information. But the phone thing would basically be a rollout. Like, it's just the encyclopedia at first. And then one day, basically like an early internet message board where anybody with one of the phones can post. Oh, and you're probably going to want your own satellite just because you don't want political forces being, if you're doing this through someone else's satellite, you can get undercut by people trying to shut down what you're doing. And also having, the submarine helps you hide from the international community, who are probably not going to want to see anything change in North Korea. So the phase 2, part 2 is you let the people communicate with each other, and with the satellite you can track where all the phones are at. And phones that appear to have gone into government-controlled areas, you just turn them off. And anybody with a phone can post, and this lets people not only air their grievances, but share information about what's going on. And it's anonymous. You can't connect it to anybody. So this lets them, if they're so inclined, start figuring out what they want to do. Because, they probably have some food reserves built up. And even if it's like the freaking nasty eggs, at least you're not going to die. And I can imagine some options like if two phones come together, you can link them and then message between the phones. But the message board, and obviously, put a camera on the phone, and then, you could upload those images. Now, satellite, bandwidth isn't great, but as long as you're just doing text and images, I don't imagine it'd be that difficult. And geotagging, where you can basically tag your location, leave a message and just say, basically informing other people of what the government's up to and where they're at. Like that's incredibly powerful. That changes quite a bit. So you got people who can think past surviving today. You have people who understand what, where they're at in the world and, what their actual situation is. They have the ability to communicate with each other and basically start trying to figure out, how to rebel against their government if things play out, the way I'm imagining in this thought experiment. There are some other things you can do with the phones, but, phase 3 is the zip shiv, drop. Basically, looking at North Korea as an open-air prison helps you, like, understand, well, how would you shift the dynamics of power in a prison? Well, like, historically, one of the ways they kept the prisoners under control is by starving them. But if you remove the starving option, well, they still don't know anything. They're still trapped in there. You can use, what they don't know against them. But, if they got secret phones that you can't seem to ever get all of, well, the information game is gone now too. But at least you've got the guns. You've got the guns and you've got the equipment. Well, in phase 3, basically you design an easily mass-produced single-fire handgun with a bayonet. It's basically, yeah, you only get one shot with the thing, but after the shot, it's still lethal. And you start, getting these things spread out in the environment, and the dynamic totally changes. Like the street level enforcers, whatever form they take, they're accustomed to going door to door, and people are so tired and weak and fearful, and they don't know what's going on, and they'll do whatever you want, just to try to avoid whatever you might do to them. But now the street level enforcers, like the people know, they know stuff. And behind, in every old woman's lap, she could just pull out a freaking zip shiv and like end you. And just the knowledge of that will change the posture of, well, I'll stay with the prison guard analogy anyway. And their change in posture will actually lead to confidence in the people that are being oppressed when they see their oppressors changing. Even if they're not involved in any of this, they'll see the change, and they can't help but also change. And it's not important at all that whoever, this Batman is that's helping everybody, there's no need to ever communicate with the people on the ground. They have the ability to communicate with each other. They have information. They have the means. They will decide whatever it is they want to do. And let's just check back to reality really quick. If anything, if there was ever a chance of, the regime getting toppled in North Korea, China would just move in and take it over. They were like, no, we're not. They would just be like, no, mine, And the only reason it's there is that China doesn't have to do that. So you say, oh, wow, so they went from being in North Korea to being in China. Great. And it's like, yep, see, you're doing that Western thing, that thing where we think we know better. We're just like, no, we know what's better for them. It's like, oh, that's only a little better. And it's like, no, that's a lot better. Because if you talk to the people in North Korea, I'm certain, you said, hey, would you like to live in China? Many, if not most, would be like, yeah. And then if you ask the remaining people, well, if you could stay where you're at, but have it be part of China, would you want that? And they would all say yes. So this is the difference between what we would want for them and what they would want for themselves. But just being incorporated into China would massively improve the living situation of the North Koreans. And to not consider that as a way of improving the lives of the most oppressed people on the planet right now, because the perfect is the enemy of the good. No, that's not quite good enough. Yeah, it'll improve their lives a lot, and you give them a lot more freedoms, and and it's like, yeah, but it's not good enough. It's like, go fuck yourself. Improvement comes in increments, not in grandiose swaths. But I would be interested in other people's takes on this. Damn, I got through this so much faster than I thought I would. But I had to do a stream. I was getting lazy. So that would be grinding meaning number 21. I am the expert layman. North Korea and apolitical regime change. You all